Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First I will introduce myself. My name is Sarina and my student ID is 204001200990, and I'm from the PBIC class, and I will explain my understanding of need analysis about teaching materials and how to develop it. Need analysis in general is process of finding out, analyzing, and determine what training will be conducted in the context of curriculum development. John M. Nail defines needs analysis or need assessment as the process by which a person defines educational needs and decides what their priorities are in order to gather information about difference and to use that information to make decision about priorities. And process a crucial role in the process of designing language course the syllabus, whether in English for specific purposes or ESP or general English course. Work can be analyzed from the various events that exist in society and predictions of community progress in the future. In the picture, there are three approaches that can be taken to analyze needs, namely needs survey, competency study, and text analysis. Needs survey is a relative simple way of analyzing needs. Competency studies are carried out by analyzing the competencies needed by graduates of a type and level of education program, and text analysis is more complicated method compared to the two previous approaches. Is setting goals. The objectives in the curriculum are hierarchical, ranging from the most general or complex goals to more specific and operational goals. Organizing materials at a macro level. Curriculum materials are arranged based on certain procedure which are one part of the overall curriculum development. After the curriculum material is selected and organized, the next step is to select and organize the learning experience. Then the development of evaluation tools is intended to review whether the activities that have been carried out are in accordance with the state goals. The next step is how to distribute the questionnaire. There are two first steps with manual distribution. Meet meet the participant in a room or large number of participants. For example, a target group over 20 students and virtual distribution. Send the questionnaire to the participants' mail address to be complete and sent back after the completion. For example, audience group who live in different cities from the researcher due to their jobs or professions, and processing information from the questionnaires decide what sort of information is required. Introduction or personal information and perception on the need of speaking course availability and linguistic needs or abilities, students' level of proficiency, priorities, language items that consider the most important to learn. And learning needs or problems, weakness and difficulties in learning, and attitudes participant feeling toward the element of the and how they prefer to learn. For example, learning styles and preference and using needs analysis data to identify needs inventory. Things to include in need Things to include in needs inventory are tools in core information available in the questionnaires. and using the need inventory to formulate your goals and objectives. They are formulated based on the identification of inventory needs. In other words, a need analysis is the basis for goals and objectives formulation. And then course description. This course mainly provides detailed uh, eludi- elucidation of the process of carrying out the systematic steps of curriculum development in language teaching. Development in language teaching should be done since it implies an effort carried out by the language teachers to improve the quality of language teaching through some stage of systematic planning, such as a need analysis, a formulation of learning objectives, development of syllabus and teaching materials implementation as well as evaluation to find out the effectiveness of the curriculum by taking into account the achievement of learning goals in language teaching program. The theoretical basis used to elucidate the syllabus design procedures in the book is the theory of curriculum development propounded by Jack C. Ricard, a professor of applied linguistics at the University of Sydney, Australia, in 2001. Then the key to how to make a good and correct lesson plan is that educators must adjust to the basic competencies and understand very well what the component of the lesson plan must be. One, a subject identify, and two, competency standards, basic competence, competency achievement indicators, learning objectives, teaching materials, time allocation, learning method, learning activities, assessment of learning outcomes, and learning researches. Able to describe the proper procedure contains a learning organizational structure to be able to achieve the basic competencies that have been set in the content standards and described in the syllabus, compiling indicators that involve three important aspects such as cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Even so, this doesn't have to be all. It must include the audience, behavior, conditions, and degree. This can be interpreted in the lesson plan. There must be students or audience, learning behavior, learning conditions, and level of success or degree. By adjusting to teaching materials, this teaching material is because teaching material must be in accordance with the demands of the curriculum, student characteristic, and can solve problem in learning. The, the decline in the quality and productivity of teachers in meeting the demands of developing teaching materials may be due to problems. Limitations. Teaching materials are an important part in the implementation of education. Through teaching materials, teacher will find easier to carry out learning and student will be more assisted and easier in learning. Teaching materials must do repetition so that understanding becomes stronger. A strong learning spirit or motivation will be a key aspect in learning. Such as positive feedback can make students understand stronger. Types of teaching materials. Audio. The types contained in audio teaching materials are audio CDs, recording case, radios, and media player. Visual elements contained in visual teaching material are print material, namely books, modules, handout, worksheet, wall chart, non-prints, and will-based teaching materials. Step 2. Determine teaching materials. Identify the factors that exist in the basis competencies and competency standards. Determine the reference for teaching materials. Determine the type of teaching materials that are suitable for the competencies to be achieved, and how to develop teaching materials by development. Make teaching materials from scratch or empty, because what you want to convey is very unique and special. By the development teaching materials, the teacher will make teaching materials from zero or from nothing to exist by utilization. Take ready-made teaching materials without any modification. By modification, using the teaching materials taken by making modification and adjustment. By customization, developing teaching materials by combining various content object evaluation is very necessary to see the effectiveness of the teaching materials you are developing. Can the teaching materials you develop really be used while learning understood, read well, and can teach students? Best that evaluation is also needed to improve your teaching materials so that they become good teaching materials. Evaluation of teaching materials. The evaluation component includes feasibility of content, language, presentation, and graphic. Component of feasibility of content include, among others, one, conformity with SKKD, conformity to the child development, conformity with the needs of teaching materials, the truth of the substance of the learning materials, benefit for adding a sign, conformity with moral values and social values. Language component include, and readability, clarity of information, conformity with good and correct Indonesian language rules, effective and efficient use of language, or clear and concise. After the evaluation, we can determine whether this evaluation activity is included in the formative or summative evaluation section. It can be seen by a change from a better student learning method or vice versa, and see how the teacher's response to the teaching materials used can be known through a student questionnaire. To fill out a questionnaire regarding study habits and the way the teacher, whether it is good or not be used as butchered teaching materials. Then regarding formative evaluation, which aims to determine the success of learning by looking at the advantage and disadvantage of the learning system used. So from this explanation, it can be concluded that in formulating the need analysis itself, it is necessary to have significant data to obtain what is desired in the development of teaching materials or learning process that are effective and in accordance with what students and teachers want, so as to create a good learning system and can creating smooth learning. I think that's all for me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.